able to travel down here to Ningbo from Shanghai. It's about a 2-hour train ride, and again, everyone wearing a mask, everyone being, respectful and keeping it on the whole time. So I just wanted to give a little bit of info about the virus stuff before we get started. There's going to be a live questions at the bottom here, so if you guys want to click the link, you can join the chat room, and I will do my best to answer your questions. But what I would say is maybe if we can really try and keep it education-based, less about the virus, because let's be honest, we're all a bit bored of talking about that. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to explain a little bit about the haircut that I'm going to do today. All right, so my model here already has a bit of an undercut, you can see. Already quite a lot of texture through the top. So I'm going to keep this haircut fairly simple. Okay, so let's get started. So, making sure we're using our neck strips, still keeping things clean and sanitary, as always. Just make sure everything's covered, so we're not covering our customer in hair. Okay. So, first thing I want to start with is my plan for this haircut. So, using my wall 5-step method, I'm going to decide where is my shortest part. So I'm going to do a drop fade. So depending on which country you're in, depending on the type of shop you work in, terminology does vary from place to place. Here in China, our definition of a drop fade is going to be just a low fade with a slight curve in it, not going too high at the back, not going too high, just in a drop sort of shape. So we're going to keep this area nice and short, but we're going to try and stretch that blend. So even though it's a drop fade, the blended part can be a little bit higher because I'm not bringing it too high up. Okay, so my shortest part is going to be kind of the perimeter. My longest part is going to be on the top here. I think I want to keep the fringe a little bit longer so we can have a bit of a side part, a little bit back in a very kind of classic sort of style. My transition is going to be focusing on this area here. As I mentioned, he has an undercut. You can see the disconnection there, right? So what I'll do is I'm going to keep the side part on this side, and I'm going to blend the side here. So my transition is going to be smooth around this side, disconnected on this side, leaving it slightly longer, so it's going to sit this way. Texture, put a little bit of texture. He already has a lot of texture in it anyways, so don't need to go too crazy with that. And then, as I've said, my finished product, finished style will be very much of a classic sort of side part, a little bit up at the front, something that we all get every day in the barbershop. Okay.
So I want maybe to show the on the top part of the left side to the camera.
Sure. I'm using my monitor here to help me as I don't have a mirror. We're in this beautiful studio today, so thank you to the crew for setting all this up. But you can see here, this is the disconnection here. Can you see it here?
Side.
So we're going to go over this way. So this part's going to be disconnected, but we're going to connect this side. Right now, this side is also disconnected. You can see here, but it's long enough that I think I can blend that in without leaving a big wedge here, which we don't want. Okay, so in order to help me with that, I'm actually going to jump right in and start on my transitional area. And I'm going to do that with a number 4 on my anniversary 1919. And I'm going to just flip it upside down, and I'm going to just right away remove this length and weight that I don't want. So 4, it's not really cutting much. Let me just switch down to a 3. You can see already it's taking that bulk off without creating a hard wedge here. I don't usually like to use a lot of clips when I do a haircut because I like to be able to see how the hair is going to lie. Obviously right now it's clean hair, there's no product in it, so it's a great surface for me to work with. One thing just to be careful when you're doing this sort of technique is make sure your angle here. You don't want to be cutting here, you don't want to be going up here. You want to make sure you're going fairly straight and you're following the direction of the hair. Again, as well, I have all this excess hair that I don't really need all of it, so I'm going to get rid of some of it. I'm going to keep a little bit so I can have enough to play with after. I don't want to be taking too much off and then have nothing to work with. I'm going to flip this background, open it up. I'm just going to take a little bit more of that bulk out of the sides and back. Okay, and already we start to kind of bring this side in a little bit. And now I'm going to start on my first guideline. Tuck them under. Okay, so for my first guideline, I'm going to start with my senior, and I'm going to just start right in with a 0, closed. And I'm going to create a little bit of a curve here. So I want to maintain this line here. I want to remove the perimeter at the back, but I want to not take this too high so you can see that drop.
Spin the tree a little bit. Yeah, you can show to me for the guideline a lot of times.
So I'm going to create the guideline, just kind of following the hairline, so going fairly low with my first guideline. This was a mid fade or a high fade. Maybe I would take it up to the occipital bone here. But because we're doing a drop fade, I want to keep it lower. The other thing I'm doing is kind of just creating a very soft guideline. I'm not going right in and creating a very hard line with the back of my clipper. Because I have my surgical steel blades, I would be able to create a very clean line. But that's not my priority right now. I want to make sure that the blend is nice and smooth. So I'm going to stick with my soft line fading so that it's going to make my life easier when I want to start to blend that up. I'm just doing very small C motions. Just trying to clean the whole area, make sure I'm getting all those hairs, brushing away what I don't need so I can really see what I'm working with. What I'll do real quick as well, just go back in with my cordless detailer LI and just cleaning up a little bit more, slightly shorter. But pulling out enough that I'm not creating a new guideline. I just want to clean it up a little bit. And I'm not going quite up to the line again because I don't want to be creating really hard lines. I'm just going very soft. So that's going to make my life easier when I start to blend it. All right, so because we're doing on scalp fading, I'm going to go back to my senior and I'm going to do my 0.5 guard and just bringing it up just ever so slightly. Just enough to remove that line, but not really going any higher. Because I don't want to take this all the way up. I want to just go up, 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 little bit by little bit. You can use my corners as well for those curved areas. It's it can be a little tricky to get a flat blade in a curved space, so using those corners. All right, so that's my half. I'll jump up to a 1. Again, just going a little bit up. As I'm going up, I'm just opening that blade a little bit more just to go a little bit higher, just taking off that second line. I'm going to use my monitor a little bit as my mirror just so I can see how we're going. I'm going to jump back down to 0.5 and open it. Again, using my corners, just taking off, helping to smooth out those lines, rub out those lines. Okay, so now I'm going to start working a little bit more on my transition area. I'm going to be cutting this side of the head first, then I'm going to go around to the other side, and then I'm going to join the two together at the back. So in order to go up, I'm going to go up to my 1.5, and I'm really going to pull it out, so I'm just stretching that blend. All right, so not quite finished on that blend there, but I think we're looking pretty good to start with. So I'm going to go on and pop around to the other side, and I'm going to come back to that side, and I'm going to finish that up in a little bit. Huh? Sorry, I skipped a step there. I'm going to just go back with my 0.5. And I'm just going up a little bit, just removing that line. To save myself a little bit of ease, I'm just going to wet the top just a little bit, just get that hair out my way. I tend not to use a lot of clips when I'm doing a haircut. I don't really like to use them too much because I feel sometimes it can create too much of a disconnection between the side and the top. So I usually prefer to use just some water, or even just stick a comb in there. Hang on a second, Jane's going to tell us a joke. Okay. No. Not allowed to have a green comb on top of a man's head. It's a hat. What is it? Green hat means death, I think, right? Oh, it means that they're cheating. Okay. Yeah, so we'll go switch back to the white comb. Thank you for that cultural little tip there. No green hats, guys. No green hats. What does it say about me with green hair? So that's one thing that's pretty cool about working with Wall, is that at Wall we are global, not local. So, oops. I'll let Simon finish the rest of that sentence for you. I'm just moving up and up and up, little bit by little bit. I don't want to be cutting much on this part here, because I want to leave that for the side part. We're going to keep that as the side part. So I want to leave that a little bit longer so that he doesn't round it out too much. All right, so just having a look there. All right, now we'll go on and make a start on the back. I'm actually going to switch it up this time. I'm going to take my 1.5 and I'm just going to bring that up just to clear up some of this work surface, so that as I bring this line up, I have a little less hair in my way, so I can see a little bit better what I'm working with. So I had initially planned to do this live stream in my shop. So I have a barbershop in Shanghai. Actually, I have 2 barbershops in Shanghai. It's called Docks. We've got one in downtown Shanghai in the Jing'an area. The other one is in Pudong, which is a little bit out by the airport. So those of you that might know Shanghai might know the areas I'm talking about. We've had Simon Shaw was out here last year. Had Mick out here as well, hoping to get some more of the Wall UK crew. We've had a lot of the Wall US team. Some of the guys you might have seen and you're going to see in this live stream as well. Jay Ramos and my girl Christy. So looking forward to seeing their shows as well. I hope you guys managed to catch Simon, Sam, Mix, and a lot of the other guys that were on the last live stream the last few weeks. It's really great to be able to get a little bit of free education in these times. I know a lot of companies aren't doing a lot of classes, so it's good to be able to do something for free, and it's good for us as well to get back in the classroom, you know, dust ourselves off, as it were. Thank you, Jane. I'm making a mess over here. I might drop everything. I drop my combs, I drop my guards, but I don't drop my clippers. That's the important thing, right?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it.
So looking back in the monitor, we can still see here, still maintaining that shape here. So now I want to bring this area up a little bit, but not too high that I'm just turning it into a regular fade. I want to keep a little bit of that drop. So going back to my, going back to my anniversary clipper, I'm going to just, using my texture blade, just bringing that line up a little bit. While I'm here, I'm just touching up, catching any of those little dark spots that I see. Even these little indentations here. So where you can feel where the head goes in there. So these are the areas you really want to get in with your corners. That really help you get rid of those dark spots. Just be careful you're not going too short. So always have your lever open. No, if you're not sure, just start longer. So for those of you that are watching live, you can ask me some questions if you have any. If you're not watching live, you can click below and you can join in the live discussion that's going to go along with this video. You know, for a lot of our UK viewers, it's going to be middle of the night, but if you're like me, you're in China or you're in the UK or Australia, you might be up and about and have some free time to ask some questions. So let me know what you're thinking, even if you just want to chat. Okay. So you can see the drop area still there, that shape, that kind of slight S shape here. So now I'm going to focus a little bit more on the top, then I'm going to come back to the sides when we start to work on a little bit more detailed work towards the end of the haircut. So just going to wet this all down, making sure to get inside the hair as well. So as I mentioned before, he has like quite a strong disconnection on both sides. So I'm going to try and balance that out. And in order to do that as well, I think I'm going to have to bring this part up a little bit higher at the back here. So he has his cowlick here as well, sorry, his crown rather, here. So it's always good to have the part on the same side as that crown. It just allows the hair to kind of fall a little bit easier that way instead of always fighting with it. Sorry, we have a little baby outside joining us. Our lead educator, John, just had a baby son. If you're lucky, we might get to meet them later. Depends how long I take. So what I'm doing here is I'm actually just bringing that part round a little bit. So instead of going down here as you would with a disconnection, maybe like a top knot type thing, I want to kind of carry that part a little bit round the shape of the head, following the shape, not cutting too much into this top, so still keeping it fairly low, but just by getting rid of this as well, I'm going to help to make a little bit more of a connection so he doesn't have that very extreme overhang. All right, so I'm going to switch to a slightly smaller comb. And I'm going to use my Barretto with my standard blade, and I'm just going to start to cut the top. So I want to create a little bit of an angle here. Classic side part's going to have it slightly longer on the parting side, and then I'm going to have this connected, rounded on this side. So let's start in the middle. Not taking too much off the length because I want to keep it fairly classic in style. This hair has a nice natural wave to it as well, so I'm going to keep that. So just bringing my elbow up here, so keeping that side a little bit longer. Making sure my lines are nice and clean. Just going to go on and take that section off. Using the guide here underneath, bringing it down so that I have a little bit extra to work with. I'm going to show you as well a way that you can avoid that shelf that we've created here. So as I said, I've left it a little bit longer for now. A little bit of clipper over comb just to soften it. And we'll work on the back. There's not too much of a disconnection at the back here, but what, of course, you want to be careful of is not going too short here, in this area here, especially on Asian hair. All that's going to do is just stick straight up. So a little bit of texture is okay. A little bit of rounding here is okay. I have some customers always want to keep this long because they don't want it to jump up, but unfortunately what happens is sometimes that ends up looking very flat here. So at least by having some texture in there, you're going to create a rounder shape, which is also good for this haircut to keep that drop fade kind of curve. All right, now I'm gonna start to blend this side, just as you would with scissors, just taking it off. I'm over directing that front section back so that I'm not cutting it too short. Switch back to my 100 year. Just a little clipper over comb just to clean up that area. Using my monitor as a mirror here, just so I can see that transition area. A little bit at the back. Because he already has quite a bit of texture on the top here, really don't think I need to add any more. I worry sometimes putting too much texture, you lose that shape of the haircut. So because we're going more classic, I'm gonna leave it a little bit heavier. I'm actually gonna dry it off now, and then I'm gonna work a little bit more on my transition areas. All right, just excuse me for a moment while I just dry this off. All right, so now that we've got kind of our basic shape there, I'm gonna work a little bit more on these transition areas with the dry hair so I can really see how it's gonna sit. So this is where I'm gonna take my number 3 again. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back like I did in the beginning. And all I'm doing is really just taking off that corner. So make sure you can hear the clipper cutting that hair and just removing that corner, but be very careful that you're not cutting up here, you're not tilting the angle up too much. You want to keep it very straight, if not a little bit down. This will just help avoid that kind of shelf that is very hard to avoid when you're cutting hair that's very straight and very thick. And that's probably why I've chosen quite a simple haircut for this, because I want to explain a little bit more about texture and different techniques that you can use. Because regardless of race or gender or ethnicity, hair is all about texture. So if you can use your tools in the best possible way to get the best result, then it doesn't matter who they are, where they're from. you're going to be able to give them your best haircut. You can still hear it's just cutting just a little bit, just cleaning up that edge. I'm just flipping it around as well, catching any bits that I see as I go. Not yet. Okay, before we get close to finishing up, we've probably got another couple minutes here. I'm just going to clean them off. Thank you, my assistant Jane, for my pre-toweled brush there. Okay, so last little bits of detail here. I'm actually going to come around this side because there's a big bright light behind me. So this will allow me to see a bit easier. I'm just creating a nice clean edge here without cutting too much into the hairline, if at all. So what I'll do as well is after this video, I'm gonna upload these on my Instagram so you can really see the finished results. Today, here in Ningbo with Wall China, we're doing some other photo shoots for some of our own education on our Chinese platforms. So that's why we're all here today in this nice studio. So thought we'd take advantage while we could. Take advantage of these nice lights. All right, let's go back around. And I'm going to keep my model straight on while I, again, just go back in and fix these little bits. I think it's really important not to be scared to take the extra time to refine your haircut. Your customer will appreciate it. And be grateful that you really want to get the best result possible. So don't be scared. But just be careful that you're not creating any new problems for yourselves by putting new lines in or putting holes or anything. So as long as you have a system and you know which level is where, you're going to avoid any problems. See, dropping everything. Yep. Of course. Yeah, when I'm finished, I'm gonna get John and John's baby here to say a quick hi to you guys. As I said, John is our lead educator here in China. We just had a little baby boy, so as you can imagine, he's pretty excited to show him off. All right. So I'm just going to add a little bit of tonic. A little bit of tonic in the hair, just to give it a little bit more volume as I dry it one last time, just to really get that shape in there. Okay, we're going to add a little bit of pomade. I'm not going to do super slick pompadour sort of style. I want to keep this, like I said, quite natural. Yeah, I think I might mix it actually with a little bit of clay as well. So pomade and clay together gives you that little bit of shine, but a little bit of extra hold from the clay. So where's John at? So I hope you guys have been enjoying this little video. It's been great fun making it. Always nice to get back doing some teaching. And it's nice to have such a global audience. And as well, thank you to Jane for doing the subtitles so that our local audience can also appreciate what we're doing here at Wolf China. So John, you want to come say hi?
Hello Simon，Hello 各位理发师朋友，大家好。我是华尔中国教育团队赵泽，在这边呢，我们特别的希望疫情尽快的过去，然后我们全球的理发师一起加油。希望大家未来多关注华尔中国教育。
加油！
谢谢，加油。
And the baby?
Yes.
We'll put the subtitles on that in English, don't worry. All right, so actually, you know what, as I said, I want to go a little bit softer. And then we can have a quick recap. So the haircut when we started was very disconnected. So what we've tried to do is just really create a little bit of shape. Give it that drop fade that's going to keep a kind of a modern look to a very classic style. And also make it easy for him to maintain. Haircut like this, with this drop fade, it grows in quite easily, grows in quite naturally. So he doesn't have to worry about getting it cut so often if he doesn't want to. as is kind of the trend that's happening these days. You know, people are going a little bit longer, trying different styles when they've not had salons and barbershops open to get haircuts. So it's kind of fun to experiment and let your customer try something different. All right. So to summarize, just my shortest part was here, this drop fade. So I did a 0, little bit of a detailer LI. Then we have our longest part is actually here. So bringing that part over. Not really any texture. You already had a lot of that in it. Transition is really nice and smooth on this side, maintaining that disconnection on the other side. Then the overall look is just sticking with a kind of a classic sort of style, but bread and butter haircuts that we all love to do. Okay, so thank you guys. I really appreciate you joining us here at Wall China and hope to see you soon. Bye.